All right, we're going right into our next session with Savannah from ShoppingGives. We kind of talked about sustainability and give back as part of Bold Swim's business model. Now we're going to see how you can incorporate sustainability, giving back, and caring about the causes that you want to contribute to with Savannah from ShoppingGives. Hello, Savannah.
Hello, Derek. How are you?
Doing good. Let me swap the logo out here. Ta-da. All right. All that said, I will just step out of the way and let you take it. Here are the slides, and I'm looking forward to this.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Like Derek mentioned, my name is Savannah White. I am the head of partner success at ShoppingGives, and I'm going to be talking to you today about how you can cultivate your brand loyalty and retention through impact. So as we dive in, I want to first touch on what I mean when I say impact and what that kind of encapsulates, as well as why it's important. So just like we heard from Bold Swim, a lot of brands nowadays care about giving back. They care about making their products more sustainable, their manufacturing practices, their selling practices. And the reason why is because this newest generation of consumers is really buying with their values and voting with their wallets. Gen Z and millennials are very purpose-driven buyers. They're micro-philanthropists. They're agents of change. And while it always used to be a nice to have some focus on giving or corporate social responsibility in your business, it's now really become a need to have in order to be a viable competitor in this space. Currently, retailers are spending over $20 billion in digital advertising to acquire and retain what we call Generation Impact. So those Gen Zs and millennials have a massive buying power, and yet less than 1% of retailers are activating on-cause marketing. And that's still a space that's growing year over year. So why is it that a lot of brands are not activating on-cause marketing? There are a couple things that we've seen can be hindrances. The first being how to understand what the customer wants, what the giving initiative should be. So there's not a lot of space outside of surveys or just a quick way to understand what your what your consumers are really looking for and what they understand to be important, what values they have. And so that can make it difficult for a brand to take a stance one way or another of what they want to believe in to support their customers. Another piece is the compliance and regulation side. There is a lot of compliance that goes into actually giving back as a brand and donating a portion of sales. A lot of different things you have to do to make sure you're following all the rules that need to be followed. And so that can also be a hindrance for different brands. And finally, the measurement of it all, especially for smaller brands and smaller retailers, does take a lot of time to figure out, okay, how much money did we say we were going to donate? How do we donate it? Where do we donate it? And that can be a lot of team time that's spent on a giving activation that brands don't always feel like is worth it. And so for all these reasons and more, we built our platform. So ShoppingGives is a social impact commerce platform. To put it as simply as possible, we enable brands to give back so they can focus on the good that they're doing as opposed to how they're going to go about doing good. It's all done a bunch of different ways, but we're trying to democratize cause marketing through our suite of technologies and helping brands build customer loyalty and retention through all of our different activations and tactics that they can use. So first, I want to go through our 4 must-haves of you have to keep in mind when donating a portion of sales. So as I kind of hinted at, there is a lot of regulation that goes into cause marketing. I think it's getting dark in my room, so I'm just going to open up this window for you guys so that you can still see me. There is a lot of regulation that goes into donating a portion of sales. The first is that you have to register and file the correct agreements. So like I said, there's commercial co-venture agreements as well as solicitation and certain bonds in different states that you have to register in order to be giving back a portion of your sales. Secondly, you have to be transparent with your customer and share the amount that's going to be donated on their behalf, and that's pre and post purchase. Whereas you might see brands that say, oh, 20% of net proceeds, or we're giving net sales from this product to charity. That's not really transparent enough for your customer, and you have to be more upfront about how much money is being given. So pre and post purchase, so showing that true dollar amount. Third, just like you as a brand would not want any old influencer or consumer to say that they're partnered with you or they're working with you, posting your logo, nonprofits function the same way. So if you are working directly with a nonprofit, it's important that you get permission to use any of those materials like names and logos in your marketing as well. Finally, you'll also need to keep detailed records of your giving in case of auditing. So any donation receipts from the nonprofit, any evidence of your actual donations, you're going to want to have on hand just in case you're going to be audited. If you want to learn more about these 4 pieces, you can check out our post on ShoppingGives. It's 4 things to know when giving back. You'll learn a little bit more than just my quick blurb on it, and then you'll also get to see how ShoppingGives kind of answers each of these points as well. Now that we've gotten the legal regulation out of the way, it's time to move into our 3 power strategies for social impact success, what to do to keep your brand and your customers loyal, as well as retaining those customers and keeping them coming back. So first and foremost, you always want to be authentic in your impact strategy and making sure that you're taking a holistic approach to your giving. Second, your customer engagement, as you might assume, really counts here. So how can you engage your customers in your giving and share that message with them to keep them coming back? Third, measurement matters. So we understand that you're in business to make money. So how can we enable you to make more so that you're giving back more? Making sure that you're checking, are our customers coming back because they're seeing giving? We really believe that doing good means doing well, and we've seen that, and we'll share that with you shortly as well. So first of all, when you have a giving strategy in mind, you always want to lead with your values so that it comes across as authentic. If you're a new brand and you're building out the social impact strategy, there are 4 key pillars that we look at and advise that you do too when you're kind of starting to build this message out. The first is your team. They're your frontline influencers, or your first line of defense. You want to make sure you're representing them when you're talking about the good that you're doing. So if you have a lot of people on your team who have pets and kiddos, maybe they want to support education causes or animal rights causes, making sure that you actually have those ideas in mind and are bringing them to the forefront so that when you bring these giving stories forward, your team is behind it as well. Secondly, your community. So who's made the brand what it is today? If you're a small town shop, maybe it's donating to a nonprofit that's down the street from you. Or if you're a global brand, maybe it's taking a stance on global issues as well to make sure that your global community is feeling represented too. So how can you represent the values of those around you who have kind of built the brand to be what it is? Third is your customer, sort of similar to your community. If your customer base is largely LGBTQ or a large female audience, or maybe new moms, what nonprofits and what causes can you support that'll then support them too? And taking an evergreen approach to that as well. So not just turning on breast cancer awareness for October or Pride for June, but really looking at that evergreen and making sure that you're representing them globally across the board. Finally, your product. So just like Bold Swim, if you caught that earlier one, she is a sustainable brand. She does 1% for the planet. So if you have a brand that is stationary, maybe you want to plant trees because you're using those resources. If you make reusable water bottles, maybe you want to fund ocean cleanups because you're also diverting plastic with your product. Take a look at what you guys have made. If there's not a direct correlation, you can always use one of the other 4 pillars. If you're first starting out, you're probably not going to hit every single one of these, and you definitely don't need to, but this is a great jumping off point for brands who want to build that impact strategy from the jump. Once you have your story in mind and the idea of what you want to support, it's very important that you publish your brand story and brand values. It's not going to do anything for you if your customers are not seeing that you are making an impact. If they believe in purpose-driven brands, they want to see what your purpose is. This is an example from our partners, White & Warren. They care a lot about the American Heart Association and heart health. So this is actually a really great page. I would recommend taking a look at it. If you're on your screens, you want to open up. I won't be mad if you click off really quick to take a look, but they have a goal of what they want to reach in donations. They talk about habits for healthy hearts, and they talk about how to donate on site as well. Some other really popular brands that we've heard from our friends as well are Patagonia. Lush has a fantastic impact page. A lot of purpose-driven brands do, and you can always gain inspiration from taking a peek at theirs as well. Sharing your story beyond just this page is also really important. You can see on the left, White & Warren posts on their Instagram about the causes they care about. Same here on the right, our partners Anatomy, aligned with Glam for Good, which is a specific nonprofit they were working with for a specific month. I did speak about evergreen impact, but if you want a cadence of supporting a new nonprofit weekly or monthly or quarterly, you get to decide what that cadence is, and then your customer will understand as well. So that's what Anatomy is doing, another kind of look at how you can actually use giving in your day-to-day. Now, second, moving into the customer engagement piece, as I kind of hinted to before, it's wonderful to do good, and you can absolutely do good without sharing it. But if you want to build that brand loyalty and keep your customers coming back, it's important to inform them of the good that you're doing. There are 3 kind of ways that we look at this. The first is education. testing your marketing channels, and then remarketing and personalization with your customers. On the first piece of education, you want to make sure that you're sharing your giving as much as possible and as early as possible with your customer on site. So this is an example from our partners, Margot. Typically, we've seen a lot of brands who will put a roundup in the checkout section, or they'll just talk about how they give back in their cart section, and that might be it. But we really want to encourage the use of information and messaging across the site. You want to make sure that you're building that cognitive consonance, or the idea that the more a customer sees it, the more top of mind it is for them. If they only see your giving at one point on the customer journey and their experience through their website, it's probably pretty easily forgettable. And if you're a really purpose-driven brand, you want to make sure that you're showing that to your customer throughout their entire journey. So whenever appropriate, whenever possible, definitely try and speak to your giving, especially if it's a big activation like Mother's Day was for Margot. Similarly, off of the online presence and off of your e-commerce store, you'll want to use this in marketing and other channels as well. So in the center here, you have Neighborhood Goods, who's one of our partners. They posted this at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic when they were donating for relief there. Another really awesome example from Ursa Major on the left and right. On the left, you can see they announced, this was at the beginning of May last year, that through the end of the month, they were going to be donating 2 trees, or planting rather, 2 trees with every order. And then at the end of the month, they followed that up and told their customers how many trees they actually planted. So they kept them in the loop of their giving initiatives. They didn't just say, okay, thanks for your 2 trees, and let it go, continue with normal messaging. They really brought this story back up into the forefront so that their customers can see, oh, wow, my order had 2 trees, but we were able to plant close to 6,000. And then they also went into, how many emissions they were able to save that way, and how many acres of mature forest they built out, how much oxygen was in the air, all of these things. So a really cool email that they sent out, and a really great way to keep their customers engaged on that giving side. As you can probably assume, loyalty points are also a great way to build customer loyalty. So at ShoppingGives, we have a specific integration with Yotpo, but this is definitely something that can be built out by your brand as well and your loyalty system too. So one way that you could use loyalty points or incentivize your customers to give to is to give points for any donation that they add. So even if you wanted to potentially give your customer the option to round up their purchase or add on a donation, incentivize them by giving them points for that, and points that they can use on future purchases, for sales, or anything else. Or they could use those points to donate as well. So if you wanted to allow them 150 points for a $10 donation, as opposed to 150 points for a sample of a product, seeing how many of your customers are really engaged in that giving aspect and how many are coming back specifically for that as well. So that's kind of how that could look. Again, this was out of the box with Yotpo, but definitely something that can be built as well. Another way to kind of track and see where your customers care about giving is to create capsule collections based on your product. This can be a very special case. It's not always going to work with everyone. We've seen a lot of brands do this who work with specific artists. So if they have an artist-facing collection or collaborative collection, they'll have that collection give back to the cause that the artist chose. Another example that we see a lot of is kind of design-focused giving. So if it's a notebook with a tree on it, it plants trees. If it's a notebook with an ocean on it, it saves the oceans. And it could be a cool way to see too if your customers are purchasing those items because they believe in the cause, or if they're purchasing it off of the look and feel of the item, but the cause is an extra benefit. And sending surveys afterward, and kind of in that measurement piece, we'll look at that as well. But another cool activation that you can use. Another way to build loyalty and retention is with customer donations. So I want to be very specific on this part because this could also hurt your brand loyalty, or could hurt your brand perception as well. We've all been in that space in a pharmacy or whenever we're checking out, we're about to put our card in, and then we get asked if we wanted to round up our purchase or add on $1. If you're in a good mood, at least for some, you might say, yeah, absolutely. Maybe you always say yes. But for some other people, it can be really tough for them because then you've just asked them to add more money when then they now think, oh, I just wanted a water bottle. Now I feel guilty that I'm not giving money. I should save the children. All of these kinds of ideas that come up, and they might end up resenting the brand for asking that question in the first place. A way to kind of monitor that is to give as the brand first and ask your customer to join you in giving rather than asking them to power the giving entirely on their own. It we have seen it resonate a lot better when a brand says, hey, we've already donated 1% of your purchase, or we're giving $1 back on this purchase, but we'd love to have you add to that giving by adding on $1. Same thing with those loyalty points. If you can incentivize your customer to give back, it's going to be a lot more meaningful than just asking them to add more money onto their cart, because they've already chosen to give with you, or purchase with you, I should say, and they're already giving you their money. So for you to say, okay, great, do you want an add-on a donation, can sometimes sit uncomfortably with them. So all that being said, if you want to include a roundup that is pretty easy, incremental for a customer to add on super quickly, when I say an add-on donation, that's the other option of $1, $3, $5. And ways to incentivize that is to say, okay, well, when you add $5 on, we take 5% off. Or if you add $10, we'll throw in an extra pouch, giving your customer another reason to donate, another incentive to donate. They're seeing that you're purpose-driven. They see that you care about giving back to the planet, whatever other causes, but you're not asking them entirely to run that donation. They're also getting something out of it. And everyone likes that little feel-good moment. So a couple options there. When using this in cross-channel marketing and testing in different spaces, making sure that you're kind of trying this out in a couple different ways. One could be social media, keeping this, organic engagement or paid. Just remember that if you're doing paid, do not use the logo. If you're doing organic, also don't use the logo, but especially if you're doing paid, unless you have permission, do not use any of the brand assets from the nonprofit. You can see some examples here. Our partners, Dr. Bronner's, did have permission, so they were sharing the nonprofits they were supporting. But in other cases, our partners were saying, what cause they were specifically giving back to. Kenneth Cole was talking about supporting the Mental Health Coalition and also COVID-19, the Solidarity Response Fund. Really helpful to use umbrella terms. If you have a cause that you're supporting, but you don't want to use the logo or the name, let's say it's Feeding America, you can say, we give back on every purchase to end hunger or to fight hunger. That way you're not in breach of anything, but you're still able to talk about your good. Another way to leverage social is to influence with giving in mind. So if you have ambassadors, if you have influencers that have something they care about, leverage that by asking them to say, hey, when you shop with my code, every purchase goes back to fight hunger. And then you as the brand can make sure that those causes are being supported. And you can also see how many of your influencers are bringing in customers who care about those causes as well. It could be really cool to compare influencer activations with and without giving. Very fun kind of experimental things to do there as well. Then, of course, there are dedicated campaigns and special activations. As I mentioned before, when you're giving back in this way, it's really good to highlight your evergreen giving on their awareness months, as opposed to change your giving per awareness month. So, for example, we have Pride coming up. If you have a strong LGBTQ audience, really highlight them, celebrate them, support the month, do something special for it. But if you don't have that audience, and if you're not usually very focused on Pride, it might not be a month for you to speak up and, add your input in. Or it's great to donate, but you want to make sure that it's coming across as authentic to your customer. You don't want them to see that and think, okay, well, they're just doing this for Pride. So really stick to what you care about, what matters most to you, and share that as you move forward. SMS and special activations, a big player in the retention space now. I know SMS is really up and coming for a lot of different industries. So including giving in that sense as well, keeping your customers coming back with that purpose. For remarketing and personalization, a couple different things we can do to really make sure that those customers feel represented. 83% of millennials say it's important for the companies that they buy from to align with their beliefs and values. So how do you as a brand align with those beliefs that your customers have? With our app, we do enable you to support any of the 1.5 million nonprofits, 501c3s in the US, and you can allow your customers to search and actually select the nonprofit of their choice. Understanding that you might want to build this from scratch or try it out. Another alternative to that is, as a brand, if you wanted to say, hey, if you click this one, we'll click, if you click this button, we'll support animal rights causes. If you select this selection, we'll support LGBTQ causes, and give them a couple options. It doesn't have to be a specific nonprofit. It can be a category. And then that way you can see where your customers are supporting. That's great too if you don't really know what your customers are in support of. That way you can see, okay, we had 3 cause categories we put up and this one performed best. So if it's an animal rights cause, maybe we have a drive at our store where we have an adopt don't shop day, and we have little puppies come in and our customers can come look around. It helps inform your decisions in the future. Another way you can use that data, that really important insight that you're getting, is that if a customer supports a specific cause or cause category on site, create an audience pool based on that nonprofit category, and then you can retarget them with ads that apply to that specific category. So if I went and supported the planet, I could be lumped into my nonprofit pool of planet supporters, and then my ads would say, look good, save the planet, fight climate change, whatever it may be. And that way you're really staying relevant to your customer as well and showing them that what matters to them matters to you as the brand. Finally, I know we had touched on this in the beginning, so we're getting around to the measurement matters. We know that you're in the business of making money. We believe that if we can enable you to make more, we can enable you to give back more. We want to make sure that you're seeing that benefit. From the impact side, like I mentioned with Ursa Major, you really want to show your customers the good that you're doing beyond just their purchase. It really helps close the loop. You're sharing your promises. If you say, hey, we want to get to no plastic by 2024, in 2024, your customers are going to expect to see that you're either at no plastic or you're still trying to achieve that goal. Same goes with quicker campaigns. If you say, hey, we're planting 2 trees every order this month, tell them how many trees you ended up planting. They want to know. It makes them feel good. It makes them feel like they contributed. So don't just let that fall off. Make sure you're tracking those things. On the left, you can also see that one of our partners had a longer kind of strategy to give back for COVID-19 relief. So they were keeping track of how many dollars were donated, which is another great way to do that. Again, can live on your impact page. Really great option. From the business standpoint, we do have a playful little spin on return on ad spend. We call it RODS, or return on donation spend. So how are your donations actually affecting bottom line? We've seen 19% lifts in conversion rate, 23% lift in AOV, and up to an 18% lift in lifetime value. So on that retention side, customers are coming back sooner. They are spending more over their entire life. So really great to see that that's kind of how impact is resonating with your customers. In terms of quicker checks that you can do just to see how your customers are performing, there are published tags in Google Tag Manager for our app, but you can set up specific events to see, okay, if our customer is clicking on the impact page, how much time is spent there, other things like that that you can monitor and see how your customer spending is affected by those. In our app, we also have a dashboard that shows you your leading indicators like your donation average order value. So customers who are donating, how much more are they spending with you, as well as an opt-in activation rate. So if you're asking your customers, hey, when you choose a cause we donate, how many customers are choosing a cause? How many are taking the initiative to see, they want to make a difference? So that's an awesome indicator as well. And again, to wrap up everything that we've gone through, if you're going to be including social impact as you should in your business, the first thing you should do is always make sure you're remaining authentic and taking a holistic look at your impact. Beyond just donating to different brands, have a trip for your team to volunteer one day, or talk about the specific items that you care about, the values that you care about. Don't just look at it from the giving perspective, really look at your whole business. How is your product made? Things like that. On the customer engagement side, keep your customer informed first and foremost. There are a bunch of different ways to do that, but at the end of the day, they just want to know what you're doing, and as much insight as you can give them, the better it'll be. Finally, measurement matters. So not only the measurement of your donations, but the measurement of impact against your bottom line and how as a business you're seeing success coming from doing good. A bit more about ShoppingGives in case you're curious to learn more. We integrate natively. We have out-of-the-box solutions for Shopify and BigCommerce, but we can integrate on almost any CMS, including Magento and Salesforce. We fully manage donations from you. So from collection to disbursement, you don't have to worry about any compliance pieces. We've already taken care of that for you. And you also don't have to worry about actually getting the money to the nonprofit. We get that all out of the way for you so that you can focus on your good. And then like we've just seen, you'll get data and business insights into how impact affects your bottom line. We're already working with some top D2C retailers like those that you can see on our page now. But if you're curious to learn more, you can always check out our website. It's shoppinggives.com, or you can feel free to email me. It's Savannah with one N and an H at ShoppingGives. But if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to stick around and answer. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Thanks so much, Savannah. Of course, I love the ShoppingGives platform, and I think cause marketing has become a mandatory component of all e-commerce, or perhaps even all of business in general. And I think you've heard me say it before, but I love when we can find scalable, sustainable ways to give back, ways where it's not just like a one-off or like, okay, we'll donate some of our proceeds or something like that. It's like, actually, it helps the business grow and scale. And in many cases, it can actually increase conversion rate more than, let's say, the cost of the donation. And that's a net positive. And that's why I think it's become mandatory, is because we can actually do that now. And we can prove it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we're really trying to take a look also at omni-channel impact. So ShoppingGives has released POS recently too. So stores that have an online presence, but as, restrictions are getting lifted and opening up their brick and mortar stores again, there is the opportunity to make impact there too, so that you can tell that full story with your customer. But just like you said, it's very relevant now, and especially to have it be scalable and something that's easy to measure. It's awesome to be able to help brands get from tiny to huge with giving along the whole way.
Yeah, I love it. And I love that you guys are a certified B Corp as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to move straight into our next session. So we'll say goodbye.
Awesome. Thanks, Derek.